Welcome to Marketing, Media, and Money, your go-to podcast for proven profitable strategies, secrets, and resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. Here's your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. So I have a question. Have you ever wondered why some live streams turn into lead-generating powerhouses while others barely make a ripple? Today, we're going to talk about the simple shifts that can instantly elevate your video strategy into a trust-building cash machine. And how we're going to do that is I'm going to have somebody that, I think I have known her for probably 13 or 14 years, and she is my go-to girl for everything video and live streams. So let me tell you about her. So today you're going to get to meet Tanya Smith. She's the founder of Get Noticed with Video and the host of Stream Like a Boss TV. With almost 20 years in digital marketing, Tanya is a veteran coach and video content strategist. She's known for her soothing voice and innovative use of apps to get things done. She helps service-based businesses master a 4-step boss formula to create consistent, lead-generating live streams that transform their audience from crickets to cash-paying clients. She's been featured in a number of high-profile podcasts, magazines, including mine, as well as virtual and in-person stages. She's often called a walking Google. She's your go-to guide for service providers and small businesses to elevate your brand with live stream marketing. Catch your weekly live stream and learn more at streamlikeaboss.tv. Tanya, thank you so much for being here with me today.
I love that I get to be here with you, Patty. You're one of my favorite people.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. So I have to tell you, I just really want to dive into this space because, you're my go-to girl for everything in this space. And like everything else, I love to contribute and I love to share, and I'm so excited about sharing you with my audience. So first of all, if you guys don't already have a paper and pen, she's going to give you some writer-downers. This is going to be the episode that you're going to want to listen to over and over again. So get ready. So no pressure, my friend.
I know.
So what inspired you, or really, was there a defining moment or experience that made you realize the transformative power of video and specifically live streaming?
Yeah, for me, it was a series of moments, honestly, Patty. It was because I had this sense that I needed to do something dramatically different that I hadn't done or wasn't doing. I started noticing that my organic reach on social media and other spaces was just not where it used to be. So previously I had been able to just simply send out a tweet, for instance, right, when the platform was still Twitter, and do an audio summit and fill up a class within 24 hours. I couldn't do that anymore. So I made a decision, let me try something dramatically different. I'm going to try video and see how it works. But I was not that person who just was in love with video because I would do the whole voiceover slides thing. I would do anything possible to keep my face off of the camera. So when I thought dramatically different and I kept hearing and seeing and reading all of the social media platforms were asking for more people to do video, I thought, okay, I have to at least try it and see. And I committed to doing a live stream every week for a year so that I could see how it worked out. And if it didn't work, my goal was to just let it go. But it totally changed everything about how I do my business. And it made me so excited about the power of using video to really create community that I had to start teaching other people how to do it too.
And I love that because I heard you say several times that you're not really the extrovert that people think that you are, right? And so to be a disruptor and have to really step out of that. I mean, it's not always easy, but where I really applaud you is that when you made the commitment, you didn't just say, I'll do it for 30 days or 3 months. You committed for a whole year. That's a huge commitment. But again, when you want data and really see how something's working, doing it for a week doesn't really get you the information that you need to do. So I have to say, that was a huge commitment to step out. And now you're everywhere, like your face is everywhere. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it felt crazy and heavy and overwhelming at the time, but I knew, like you said, 30 days wasn't going to do it. I figured that 90 days wouldn't even do it. I was reading what people were saying. Hey, I've had this channel for 2 years, 3 years, and finally, right? So I knew that the runway I gave myself had to be long enough.
And that's really good, though. Let's get a little specific. So when you're talking about, say, coaches, podcast hosts, and other service-based content creators, how can they integrate a personalized video strategy into, say, their broader content marketing plan if they want to attract and engage their ideal audience? Because we know one size fits all doesn't work. You're not just going to go download something from Google. You really do need a personalized video strategy. So if you really want to do that, what's the best way to integrate that, really?
Well, one of the things that I think I discovered by accident and again by failing is I kept originally, when I started doing video and doing live streaming, I kept trying to mimic what other people were doing. So I was going out and I was finding the popular, video makers, the people that were out there that were shining and doing really well, as far as I thought. And I tried to become them. I tried to pretend that I was them and to see if I could fit into their skin and to, really be the extroverted, energetic person that some of them were. And it was not my style. So I honestly think that once I embraced my own personality and figured out who I am and how I wanted to identify myself on camera, things got so much easier and it felt better to do it. It felt more joyful. It was more, I was more passionate about talking about what I wanted to talk about when I embraced my own personality. And so that would be the advice that I give people if you're in any type of service business or otherwise, really. If your goal is to start doing video, really get to know who you are. Identify yourself and fully embrace your authentic, I know that's an overused word, but your authentic gifts and strengths and whatever the personality is that you have, let that shine. I'm a chill type of person, Patty, as you know. I'm not super over the top, but I still get my message across because I understand what my personality is going to meet the needs of certain people. Not everybody, but it's going to attract those who actually were right for me and I'm right for them.
And I think that's really important too, because I'm in marketing and everybody isn't our client, right? And everybody isn't in our audience either. So you will resonate with the people. But I think that one of the things you said that's really important is because what kind of message would we be giving out specifically on video when people can actually see us? Right? If 1 week you're doing this and the next week you're doing this because you're trying to copy and be other people. And people, so like nobody resonates with you because they have no idea like really who you are. So I think that is really an important thing. And so I want to say that I love knowing what to do. That's why you're my go-to person. But sometimes I also like knowing what not to do as well. So for a second, let's kind of go there. So what would you say are some of the most common, say, video mistakes and pitfalls? And of course, then we want the solutions too, right? But really, there's always some, common ones that seem to happen over and over again because they've gone to Google, watch this or watch that. Not to say that you can't do those things too, but for you and I feel pretty comfortable saying that, Google's an information business and we're in the transport, right? So,
yeah. And I think that is really key, what you just said about the transformation versus information. I think one of the things that I've seen that has been I think we get ill-informed sometimes by going to Google and also by watching other gurus or people who are doing things that we feel we want to emulate. Again, goes back to that authenticity thing. Sometimes what happens is that we fall into the trap of thinking, hey, the trend is that you talk about this topic. And it may not have anything to do with what you're a master at. It may not have anything to do with what you enjoy talking about, but you feel like you must create content around this thing because that's what everybody's doing. And like my grandma used to say, if so-and-so jumps off the cliff, are you jumping off too? Right? So
Yep.
I feel like one of the mistakes that we make is following trends without having all the background and understanding whether or not it's right for us and for the audience that we're talking to. So the solution really would be to research, to experiment, to try things, sure, but also to really get clear on what your mastery is. What is it that you really want to talk about the most? And how can you do it in such a way that maybe it does fit a particular trend? Or maybe, for instance, I'll give you a quick example. I know that a lot of people get into these, the special holidays, the unique holidays that are on calendars and such. Well, I'm not going to create content for every single holiday, but there might be certain things that really fit what I do, like on camera day. Apparently happens to be a day in the year. I can take advantage of that trend, but still be talking about video and what I like to talk about. But I think sometimes we just go too far by following trends without really making any connection back to our business and what we are specialists at.
I totally agree. By the way, yesterday was Professional Speaker Day. So,
Hey.
see, so there's always one of the things that really kind of relate with you. So I totally agree with that too. Although I will say, I love iced tea. That's my beverage of choice. And one of the biggest viral posts I ever did was when I said it was National Iced Tea Day, but I also put some of my favorite recipes of iced tea that were in there. I had thousands and thousands of people that were on that post. So I mean, but it was something that I really, really love. I didn't say, oh, it's National Iced Tea Day. I actually drink iced tea and I love it, right? So you're right. I really agree with that. So what would you say? I love strategy, right? So the strategy tactics, I love strategy. So what strategies would you recommend if you wanted to say, because consistency is so important. So if you wanted to maintain a consistent video schedule without experiencing burnout, right? Especially if you're juggling multiple content platforms, because a lot of people are on multiple content platforms. So how would you say if you wanted to be consistent in a video schedule for that?
One of the first things to do is to realistically sit down and decide what's going to work for you and for your lifestyle. I think that differs for every person. I used to try to give people this formula and say, well, you need to do it, this number of days per week or whatever. But I realized even with my own life that it is uniquely fitted to me. The way that the day of the week, the time of day that I can do my lives is because of the other obligations and responsibilities that I have. So I think there have been a couple of different formulas. I'm going to say formula, even though I don't believe that there is a one size fits all. I think that's doing it weekly. So if you can somehow create video on at least a weekly schedule, it can help you. But if that's not something that's going to fit your calendar, another way to get around that and still distribute something at least on a weekly basis is by batching your content. So if you wanted to take just 1 day or 2 days out of the month and batch record, you could do that. That includes, even if you're recording it ahead of time, to upload a video into your live stream feed, there are lots of tools that allow you to broadcast live, even though it's pre-recorded video. So there's a couple of ways right there. Another thought is to think about your videos in episodes. So if you're thinking, or episodes or series, if you really don't want to be someone like me who is doing this every week for the rest of your life, just because I love it, I'm okay with doing that. There are people who have decided that they're going to create short-term series or episodes. So they may say, I'm going to create a series of 10 different videos based on this specific topic. Then I'm going to go and take a vacation for 3 months. So I think that there's all different types of ways. The consistency piece is unique to each and every person, but the definition of it for me is that you're doing it in such a way that people don't forget you. Because people have short-term, memory these days when it comes to content. So making sure that you have something that is constantly going out, no matter how you get that done, but you're putting it out and distributing it out at least on a weekly basis, if not more.
I think that kind of makes sense, though. So if people knew that you were going to be live stream every 2 weeks. Like, but as long as it was on the same day and people knew when to come and see it, and then knew that in between that, you might be doing these 15-minute solo ones, and you might be doing, some of the pre-recorded, our most popular, whatever. You know what I mean? But I think it's really, for me, what I have found is that it's just them knowing when they can time you, right? And being consistent in that type of thing. So I love that you gave us a lot of different ways to do it, because it doesn't mean you have to do this one thing. And I mean, you actually do yours in the evening, right? Because that's when it works for you. But again, everybody knows that's what it is, and they want to see you and be a part of your audience. So they adjust their schedule, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And as I have been doing this particular routine over time, Patty, I've also started looking for ways to adopt other times. And it may be because I'm pre-recording and uploading on a different day and time, but I'm looking for and experimenting with the things that are going to work for my lifestyle without the burnout that you mentioned earlier. So, yeah.
I think that's important. And in the age of digital content, right, and using the word authentic, which we do know that sometimes it is getting used, but I really do feel like in the age of AI as well, human connection is even more important than it's ever been.
Yes.
So how in this age of digital content can we have authentic connections, because they're more important than ever? So how can video creators create that authentic connection that will actually foster, say, long-term loyalty, right? We're all trying to create raving fans that love us, that come back, which you have done that so well. Your hashtag OG, right? Really, really works. So whether you're the newbie or whether you're the OG, it totally works. And it does foster long-term loyalty, right? So you have to be able to create those authentic connections. So what are a couple of ways that video creators can really do that? Because that's the name of the game, right?
It really is. Part of it is just showing up like we talked about and having that consistent, reliable schedule. Like people know when you're going to be on. They know that you're going to deliver a video on these days. So part of it is establishing that reliable calendar or schedule for them. But another huge part of it is exactly what you described that I do in my show, which is the engagement and helping people to feel, fostering this sense of community and connection, because you're identifying and acknowledging people and saying, hey, I see you, right? Which is one of the reasons why I really kind of flock to live streaming, because I get to have real-time conversations with people in the chat. I get to acknowledge them while they're there. I get to leverage the whole concept of being able to answer real-time questions because, hey, what you just said triggered this thought. And so they're getting immediate gratification because I'm sharing back to them, here's what I heard you say, and here's my, recommendation or my thought. So all of those things, acknowledgement, even if you're doing produced or pre-recorded videos, coming back to look at comments and responding to people and letting them know that you cared enough to read what they wrote and that you said, thank you so much. And it was more than just a like. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, just caring for the conversation in other little subtle ways really helps to build that that sense of connection and engagement, encouraging people to engage by helping them to self-qualify who they are, where they're from. A lot of people in Zoom calls ask right off the bat, where are you from? Let me know in the comments, right? So anything that you can build into the discussion on your video that gets people to interact and to respond is super helpful.
And I actually think that, I know that I don't get to come because of my life to every one of your live streams, but I do know that whenever I have a question, I'm thinking, oh, I have a question. Oh, I'm going to go to Tanya's, thing because you are answering it live, right? So I think you are that go-to person, right? Whether it's technique or strategy around this or an app or whatever, you're my go-to girl, like I said. But I think that is really important. But I love what you just said when you were sharing about, how to maximize that audience engagement. Do you have any special tips for, say, speakers who are used to doing in-person events, but now they're trying to transition to virtual platforms? So it's kind of a little bit different. I know it was a struggle for me, right? Because you're you're used to that. Although live stream is much better than just doing video because you do have that interaction that you just said. But, speakers are kind of a breed. And when they get used to doing this in-person event, it's a transition for them. Do you got any special tips for them?
Yeah, it's a real transition from what I hear. I've heard from a lot of speakers who do, the platforms, and then they come onto a virtual stage and they're like a deer in headlights. And part of it is they're not used to seeing other people, or not seeing anyone, rather, right, on the other side that they're talking to. They're just looking directly into a camera. One of the things that I would definitely suggest is to practice looking into the camera, because you truly are still speaking to an audience of people. It might be an audience of one while you're live if you're doing a live stream, but people watch the replay. And when they do, they want to know that you're talking to them directly. So that's one thing. A second thing is to leverage QR codes. So the same way that you would do from a physical stage, and you probably have a slide deck where you're using QR codes. Now in a live stream, you can pop up QR codes to lead people to a specific place. You just have to be careful you don't do it too early in your video, because you end up driving people off of the video. They're not watching now because they're going and clicking your link. And another thought would be to really just kind of think of your conversation as though you were on a physical stage. Be as natural as you are in a physical stage, because again, you need to recognize that even if you can't see the numbers of people that are watching you right now, if your content especially is evergreen, meaning that it's not going to ever end, like 3 years from now, the same points will still apply. If that's the case, you want people to still feel like you're talking to them directly. And so you need to behave in that way. I know that it can be a difficult transition, but I feel like there's so much, especially if you're a professional speaker already, that you can easily carry forward with you into the visuals. The other thing, that's the last thing, is to add more visuals, not just a call to action QR code, but have little visuals that go across the screen that help people to identify hashtags or destinations that you want them to go to, or downloads. Use those, leverage those in addition to your voice so that you're still giving the same impact.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I know that I gave you a lot of grief when I first went to video, and I was like, I don't know, it's a struggle for me to relate, because I am a speaker and I'm so used to connecting, and my podcast was audio for a long time, and it was a struggle. Like, I'm being honest, it was really a struggle. And when you told me, oh, Patty, you should just live stream, I was like, are you kidding? I'm just really kind of getting used to the video. But as a speaker, and listening to you, I realized live streaming has to be easier because you are interacting like you are when you are on the stage. So I feel like, oh yes, like video, and then just go straight to live stream, like how to live stream, right? So another thing though, when you're thinking about live streaming, I was thinking about this the other day when I knew you were going to be my guest. So we're all talking about branding. I love your whole background, and it is so you, and it really is who you are and your brand. It is definitely on brand. So how can live streaming specifically be used to elevate your brand? And what are the advantages of it versus other forms of video content?
So live streaming for me, from a branding standpoint, has been it's been a gift, because I get to marry the appeal of visuals that I would pretty much use in any type of content that I'm putting on social. So that includes the brand colors, the different types of words and phrases I use, the fonts, even if I'm putting up different texts, banners and that type of thing. So I get to carry all of that forward into the video. But not only the visual aspects, it's also the aspect of you being who you are. So your personality really gets to shine through in live, because you're really having conversation. It's not just about you reading through a script or sounding very produced and structured. It is you naturally speaking in maybe even the dialect that you use, with a friend. So I used to really be hesitant about that, Patty, because I came from a corporate background. I thought, okay, well, not only do I need to be more hyped up and enthusiastic, but I also need to wear a suit and I need to, speak a certain way. And I relaxed and realized, no, I'm talking to people who are like my people. And they weren't even people yet. It was crickets initially. But the more comfortable I got in my own skin, all of that to me feels like that is part of branding who you are holistically. So now when I meet people at conferences and I see somebody in person, they instantly are like, oh, you're Tanya. I know who you are. You're the same person as you always show yourself to be on camera. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, what you see is what you get. I think all of that is a part of the branding that we can do with live streaming, pulling together the visual accents, making sure that we're incorporating graphics and things that we represent in our other spaces on our websites, on our social media, your logo. Those type of things can easily be integrated into your stream, depending on what you're using.
Now, I think that's really important too, because for most of us, we are our brand. We are our brand. And so thinking about the question that I just asked you about the speakers, well, when we're on stage, yes, we a lot of times have, depending on what type of speaker you are, have a slide deck, right? Whatever. And yes, you can put your little logo down in the corner, but you don't get to do this whole thing that you got going on the stage, right? So that actually gives you even more ways for you to actually visually and to be a part of your brand. So when they do meet you, because I know that for me, probably the greatest compliment that I love when I get, and I get it often, is when people say, oh my gosh, Pat, you're exactly the same when I meet you in person.
Yeah.
And I think that is like so important, right? Because how many times have you met somebody and they're this, and then you meet them and they're like, wow, they're not that at all, right?
Right.
And we've all had that happen, right? We've all had that happen, right? So thinking about here, if we're doing all of these things and you have your brand and you're elevating your brand and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't always stop with just the live stream, right? What are some of the ways that you can repurpose that video content across different platforms? Because, that's what you hear all the time. Oh, you need to be repurposing your content, right? So even if it's video and live stream, you still have the ability to be able to do that. So what are some of the best ways?
Some of the probably more common ways, and I think these are good ways, is to really take that live stream. For me, for instance, I'm about 45 minutes to 60 minutes on average. You may not start off that way. By the way, most people don't. Most people are maybe around 20 minutes or less. And when I first started, that's where I was. It's just because of the community and the engagement that it's now longer. But I take that piece, whatever your length is, and clip that into shorter bites. Shorter bites that still have a message that even if someone never saw the entire stream, they could still walk away with something of value. So repurposing into short video clips is definitely one way. And there are a ton of different tools that will help do that. Repurposing into a blog post so that you have written content that you can now feed into your website to help with SEO. Repurposing into audio format and just having audiograms that are out there, because people also love a podcast. So you can repurpose into a video podcast into a full audio podcast, which I know is something that you do. And I think that that's super smart. Turning it into a newsletter, turning it into, I could go on and on with the list, but because you start with video and you have the visual media as well as the text, because of the transcript as well as the audio, it's endless possibility there for you to repurpose your content. You can even recreate a whole shorter version, which is something I'm about to start doing. So my longer 60-minute videos, not everybody's going to want to sit in on the live because it's more fun when you're live. And if you can't make that time, So I'm repurposing those into shorter scripts that I then turn into a 10-minute video that I'll upload to YouTube, which is kind of like a recap video. There's any number of ways, but all of those are the ways that I love to optimize the content that I took all that time putting together.
Which really makes sense, because it's kind of like how they say, and we know to be true, that some people are visual and some people, like to read, and some people, everybody likes to take in their content in different ways, and they all have their preferred method. So it seems like live stream gives you the most amount of flexibility and variety in being able to repurpose them in all the ways. So you're literally hitting your audience in all the different ways. And like you said, not everybody can be there at that time to be live, but after they get a couple little pieces, they're like, oh, well, maybe I'll, kind of try to make it in the ones that I can. So I think that is really important, which kind of leads me to thinking about technical and creative aspects, right? So I think a lot of content creators, including myself, struggle with the technical and creative aspects of video production at times. I am much, much better at it than I was, right? But I am much more of a creative person than a tech person. So we struggle with that. What are some of your go-to tools and resources for kind of overcoming that challenge?
The most important thing is to remember that the essential result that comes out of you doing this video is not, oh my God, look, she's using a such and such camera, or she's using this type of mic. The most critical thing is the message itself. So when it comes to gear and devices and all of that, if people can't hear you on the video, they're going to leave. So if I had to, in order of importance, make sure that you're using simple enough tech that's still powerful enough, having a really good microphone is a great idea. So if you have not invested in anything else, and if you're not just using your smartphone, which a lot of people start with that, start with a smartphone, and that gives you the camera, it gives you the audio, etc. But if you're elevating and going next level, the first thing is going to be audio, so people can hear you effectively. Second thing is going to be definitely having the camera. And there are cameras that I suggest people who I'm working with to start out with. First and foremost, your native camera that comes with your laptop or your PC or your Mac is probably not going to be the best for doing live streams in particular. What I recommend to most people these days is one called the OBSBot Tiny 2. I started with a Logitech C920. I think there's a C920 still out there. It's an older camera, but it's easy. You just plug it into your system. No matter what you have, you plug it in there and it works. And it's great. It's something that most people were buying anyway, a couple of years ago when we were all at home. So a Logitech is super affordable. Next step would be, I think, the OBSBot Tiny 2. And the third, if you really want to go advanced and go all out, then you can start looking into DSLR cameras. So there's a lot of potential there, but those get super expensive. And you have to remember, it's not just the camera, but then you buy the lens, then you buy the capture card. There's a bunch of other things that come with that. So not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but to give you a couple of different suggestions. On microphone, I know a lot of people that have a Blue Yeti and do fine. I know that there are people in the industry of video and photography who are like, oh my God, no, Blue Yetis, but they work, right? And they again, plug and play. I am using a Shure mic, so Shure. I love Shure mic. I love the quality of them, but because of the one that I chose, that meant I had to get additional accessories too, like a mixer, which you can't see here, called a Rodecaster Pro 2. But that's next level. Just starting out, you need something that you can plug into your system and go. The third and final piece of gear that I think is really important for video is going to be lighting. So if you can find some reasonably priced, depending on your budget, key lights, those are my recommendation. I know a lot of people have ring lights. It can be especially challenging if you have glasses. It can be challenging if you don't have the right setup, you don't have your ring light at the right angle. Key lights kind of get rid of some of that complexity of making sure that everything is just right, especially if you're wearing glasses. So I love to talk about key lights, and there's a bunch of different affordable brands. Newer has a brand of key lights. Elgato is probably one of the best. But yeah, I can go on all day, Patty. Hopefully that gave people a little bit to think about.
And not only that, she actually has an Amazon store where you can actually go to her Amazon store. She has all these things and you can do it. That's the very first thing I did was like Tanya, where should I go? And she's like, oh, go to my store. And I like it because you actually have different pricing levels so people can, start. But I think one of the other things that I have learned from you is I know a lot of people, I'm kind of one of those, that I don't want to start with this one and move up, because in my head, I'm like, I know, but what am I going to do with that one after I bought that one? And I love that in the conversations that I've had with you, you've shared you start with this one, and then when you go up to this one, then you use this for this, and then you use this for that. And so you have to start somewhere, right? And I think that is really great. And I like that your store actually makes it so that you can actually choose which thing that you can do when, right? So that you can even, add them as you can, which I think is really good as your level of technology goes up, how comfortable you are and all those things. And so that you're thinking, how do I get to a store? We're going to tell you, and there's a button that we're going to have. So we're going to have all that information. And
let me say that Patty did fuss at me a little bit, though. She's like, some of the stuff that's on your video, you haven't put in your store yet. So I will go and take care of that before anybody sees this, the replay here.
That's awesome. But she also has some really cool things too. So those of you that are listening, you're not going to get to see this, but I'm going to encourage you to go to our YouTube channel so you can. But those of you that are watching, she even is so with her brand. She even has a wrap around her mic that she can get. Like when she told me that, I was like, oh, I want one of those, right? So it's all wrapped. It is so on brand, and it is very, very nice. So I have to tell you that I really love that. But the other thing that I have to say, Tanya, is that, this is the second time I've had you on my show, because you're always so great. And I meant it when I said my magazine too. So not only has she written for my magazine several times, she's actually been a cover girl for our magazine too. So she is one of our beautiful cover girls. So I love that. But with that said, because I love that, and obviously you can see what great content she had, one of the things that you did that I just saw yesterday that I loved was not only, obviously, you do podcasting and live streaming, doing all these things, but you are a guest a lot. And so when I went and looked and I saw, here's Tanya in the guest seat, right? I was like, oh, I love that so much. I have to tell you, I love this so much that I actually put that down in the show notes too, because this way, if maybe I can't keep her here for 3 hours and ask her everything, but in this guest seat, she actually does all the other things she talks about too. So I just want you to know, I want to be a resource for you too. So yes, I want you to listen to my podcast and watch my podcast, but there's a whole slew of them she has there. So you can really tap into the resource that she really is. So we'll make sure that we actually have that for you too. So
thank you.
In your service, right? So Tanya, what emerging trends? Like, I like trends here. So some people are early adopters, right? Some people play, catch up and stuff. But what emerging trends in video marketing and live stream should we be aware of it so that we can adapt to the trends and stay ahead of it?
Yeah, there's there's a lot in the space of AI. I mean, I know if you have been anywhere living for long, you've heard AI everywhere. And so one of the things that I'm seeing that I actually kind of like is the ability to be able to leverage AI to enhance what we already know and to speed up the process of creating workflows for our videos. So for instance, I use a tool called vidIQ, and sometimes I'll use TubeBuddy. And their AI features allow me to really tweak and hone in on the title that I'm using for my videos so that it's more likely to get searched and to be seen. I love the ability to be able to really use artificial intelligence to create a whole live stream 90-day content plan. And that's something that I taught in a recent keynote that I did. I talked about creating your whole plan and prompts to use with your video content creation. So people were able to walk away with a full-blown strategy that suits them and their niche of expertise. So I think that a big trend that's going to continue. Now, one of the other things that's still kind of on the surface is the creation of video with AI tools like Soros, which is not quite out yet to the public, but a lot of people are using one called InVideo.ai, where you can type in certain text and give it prompts, and then it creates a whole video for you.
Wow.
Now, what I caution people, though, is that I get a little nervous about some of the cloning. I've been seeing the video clones where you're basically signing away rights to your face and your expressions and who you are to an artificial intelligence bot. When you invest in certain types of video creation software, you might be signing over privacy, and you need to be careful of that. That is a trend. I'm seeing a lot of people clone themselves to be the talking head in their video. There, to me, is nothing like person-to-person interaction. And I feel like people are craving that. And I just want to caution us all to be mindful that we're using that as a tool and not to replace the work we do, our own knowledge and who we are. But that's a big trend for everything. Every piece of content that you create, whether it's social media post or something else, that's huge.
I agree with you. I think that I love AI and I use it every single day in my business. But what I don't use it for is to be me. Even though I have to say, if I have $1 for every time in my life, in my adult life, I thought, wow, if I could just clone myself, I would get so much more. That's right. And when you say that, now we actually can do it. We're like, no, like we really don't want to do that, right? But I remember I used to say that. It's kind of like how we used to say that, oh yes, I can multitask, and now people don't want that either. We want to know that you can focus. So that's also a trend too, right? So I think that it is really important. So Tanya, you came bearing gifts, because you didn't give us enough knowledge already, right? But you did come bearing a gift, and I love this gift so much. So tell everybody a little bit about the gift.
Is this the quiz?
Yes, of course it is.
I put together a quiz based on personality types, and it's helping you to discover whether or not you fit into one of 4 different, what I call live stream archetypes. The beauty of this is that, going back to what I shared about me and trying to mimic other people, it's going to be helpful to you when you answer the questions honestly as to who you are and how you prefer to deliver information. It's going to put you into one of 4 different sections or archetypes, so that you can then discover tips and trends about how you can best operate and show up on camera. So I love that it's personality based. It gives you the freedom to really fall into, hey, this is my character. Either I'm a charismatic connector, I'm an insightful instructor, or any of the other 2 characters. And that way you can fully embrace, okay, I am not an energetic entertainer, so I'm not doing jokes, I'm not singing and dancing, but I love to teach. And you can fully take on that persona and that role and really just show up as your true self. So I do love that at the end of the quiz, you get a 1-page report and you get some tips from me, yours truly, to share with you how you can actually use that in your video marketing.
I love that. And I have to tell you, one of the things that I like when I take assessments or quizzes, when you're pretty sure you know who you are, right? And then you nail it, right? You're like, yep. So for my audience that's heard that, I think we can all be pretty confident that I'm a charismatic connector, right? I mean, I think in your mind, as they were listening, like, oh, Patty's a charismatic connector, and you would be right. So that just kind of validated me. But yeah, the tips that you shared and the things that you said really helps that when you're thinking about, your format and what kind of things you want to bring to the show and be authentically you, knowing that really did help that, oh, well, this is kind of okay to bring this in and more importantly, to not be something that you are not, right? So I think that is really important. So Tanya, I know you're always cooking up something and working on something. And so I know that you've got some new stuff. So this is the time that I like to kind of say, this is kind of my open mic. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you and let you share with everybody what's the next project you're working on. What, you shared all this good stuff. What else are you working on that we might want to know about?
Wow. I'm working on quite a few things in this moment. And one of the things that I recognize is that I have been someone who has been relied upon as a go-to. I think in the introduction, we talked about walking Google. So I have created something called App Therapy Club, which is a branch of StreamLikeABoss.tv. So our Stream Like a Boss TV folks always ask me about different apps and tools. So SaaS, software as a service. And with App Therapy Club, even though we've put it on pause for right now, it is going to be a major component of our brand moving forward, where I can really do all-in reviews of different tools that can help you with your video marketing. But the second thing that I'll mention, and I need to be careful that I don't share everything, but I have built a platform that leverages AI to create different roles for every part of your video marketing workflow, from helping you to create the titles and getting ideas for your next live streams and creating a thumbnail for your next live stream. And yeah, so that's pretty exciting. That's been kind of hush hush, but I'm really looking forward to actually delivering that once we are finished with the entire platform. But it's super easy. It's leveraging the power of AI, of course, but you still get to insert your own information so that it gives you a personalized touch to how you're creating this stuff. So that's fun.
Well, Tanya, this is like so you, right? This is give us a sneak peek. We got the sneak peek. That's awesome. I wasn't even sure what you were going to say. Like I'm privy to a few things, but I wasn't even sure. But that's why it's called open mic, right? So you get to share whenever you want. So yeah, tell everybody what's the best way to get the gift and what's the best way to watch your live stream and the best way to connect with you, because I know they're going to want all of that. Just so you know, again, if you're listening or if you're watching on our YouTube channel, the buttons are below. But go ahead and tell everybody what's the best way you want them to connect with you and to be able to see your live stream and to get the free gift and all that good stuff.
The main place that I play right now online, my own online real estate, is primarily at streamlikeaboss.tv. So if you want to know what programs and workshops and other things we have coming up, that's where you go. You'll also find the quiz there. So streamlikeaboss.tv/quiz is where you can actually access the quiz. My socials primarily are all at Video Coach Tanya. And YouTube is Tanya Smith Presents Stream Like a Boss TV. So YouTube is the only place where I was able to actually grab my name, Tanya Smith, because it's so common. So if you do type in Tanya Smith or Stream Like a Boss on YouTube, you'll find me there. But all other socials are at Video Coach Tanya. So yeah, find me anywhere and connect so I can say hello and tell me that you watched Patty's show or you're listening to our podcast so that I know you're a dear friend too.
Oh, that's so awesome. And we will have every single one of those resources that she said and a few that she didn't. So we'll have her podcast, YouTube, her in the get seat, everything will be there so you can check her out. Thank you so much, Tanya. Like as usual, you showed up and just contributed, which I love so much about you. I appreciate you being here with me today, my friend.
Thank you for having me too. I appreciate it. And always a good time.
Always a good time. And to our audience, thank you so much for being here with me this week. I appreciate you so much. And if you liked this episode, and I am sure you did, make sure you like, share, and review it on your favorite listening platform. And also make sure you go check out our magazine that we talked about at m3digitalmag.com. Until next week, thank you so much. Have a phenomenal week.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at m3magazine.com. That's M3magazine.com. I promise your business will thank you.